Welcome back to another video on the channel. So I wanted to give a further explanation and opinion on the huge news that broke this morning that Novak Djokovic could enter the Australian Open 2022 after receiving a medical exemption to travel to Melbourne. I did record one of these videos a little bit earlier and then established a few facts that certainly changed my opinion, and I'm going to say why I think Novak Djokovic should be void of criticism for receiving a medical exemption for Australian Open 22. So just starting with the story of events, and from reading many different statements and listening to Craig Tiley and reading about what went down in Australia for Novak Djokovic to get here, I think this is about the story of events that I've gathered. So Tennis Australia told all players and staff a good few months ago that you either get one of these vaccinations or apply for medical exemption, or you won't be allowed at the event. And Djokovic, I think, made it pretty clear last year that he wasn't going to get vaccinated. He never revealed that exclusively, that he wasn't going to get vaccinated, but he always hinted that it was going down that way. He applied for medical exemption, which is well within his rights to do. A number of other players haven't been vaccinated and applied for medical exemption to compete in the 2022 Australian Open. His application to enter the tournament was reviewed by two independent bodies. I believe they were Victorian health officials, completely blindly as well. Every single application that was made by a player to enter the tournament on a medical exemption was reviewed blindly. So the people who were reviewing it didn't know whose application it was, which I think is a very key point. And other players have had medical exemptions approved and are in Australia. Others were rejected. Craig Tiley's confirmed today there are a number of players in the draw with medical exemptions, not just Novak Djokovic, which I think is being misunderstood by a few people. The applications for medical exemptions were reviewed by health officials. And I think especially when you consider that Australia's had one of the strictest lockdowns in the past couple of years, they've really tried to curb and restrict the spread of coronavirus and look after their people. I think there'll have been very, very unlikely that there was room for loopholes in the medical exemption list. And whether there was or not, Djokovic did not create the rules, and he, along with other players, has applied for medical exemption and was one of the approved. So moving on to slide number 2, and I think this has come down to who is to criticise, who is at fault here, and who can you question. So there's people are posting the medical exemption list and question how Djokovic was approved. Which banner does he fall under that meant he could enter Melbourne without a vaccination? And I think that's completely private. He's being private about his medical history in the past good few months, and in my opinion, why should Novak Djokovic justify his reason for receiving a medical exemption, but other players in the draws don't? So if, say, the 98th and 100th ranked people in the tournament are unvaccinated and received a medical exemption at Novak Djokovic, why should he have to reveal his reason for getting that and not those? Just because he's the world number one and the headlines and the questions surrounding him, I don't think means he should be made to come out in public and reveal his reason for getting a medical exemption. I'm sure Djokovic himself would have expected a backlash. He knows this won't have went down well, but in the day, he's a player chasing greatness. He wants to turn up at every single tournament that he can and become the greatest player of all time. Ultimately, when you look at the hard facts in the story of events, he's done nothing wrong, in my opinion. He's applied for medical exemption and he was approved. If Tennis Australia rejected his application, then he would have not been in Australia. He wouldn't have been competing at the Australian Open. So now, thirdly, I'm going to look at why the blame, in my opinion, lies with Tennis Australia. 3 different points I'm going to quickly talk through. So should they have just made this event vaccinated or no entry? And it certainly would have been less complicated. Difficult, though, if players have genuine medical reasons for not getting vaccinated. I don't think that's something you can really do. There is players and people out there with genuine reasons why they won't get the coronavirus vaccination. To completely cut them out of the sport during such a difficult time, I don't think would have been fair. But it certainly would have been easier for fans to understand and save this backlash that Novak Djokovic has received. Secondly, I think it's hard to fathom personally how the Sputnik vaccine isn't enough to enter the tournament. a number of players have received that Russian vaccine and been rejected entry to Australia, yet unvaccinated players can still enter. Again, not Djokovic's fault, he didn't make the rules, but it does seem very difficult to understand and perhaps a little bit complicated. I'm not sure whether Tennis Australia really got that right. Finally, I think this is the most important point. I think it's just terrible timing from Tennis Australia to announce it's so late in the day that Djokovic is heading to Australia with the medical exemption. I think it's been a bad day for tennis overall. It doesn't portray the sport in a very good way, or Djokovic in a very good way at all. And I think, tennis has sort of let itself down today after a great 2020 and 21. It's such a difficult time for sporting events to be made and run during such a difficult time with travel. And I think tennis overall done a very, very good job. I watch a lot of different sports, and the way tennis put on Grand Slams and fantastic entertainment and coverage kept the sport as safe as possible during those tough couple of years. I think they did a very good job, but today sort of looks like it's thrown it all away with the announcement. But I think it should have been explained better, communicate with fans, all decisions made a lot earlier. I think deciding whether Djokovic can compete 2 weeks before the event starting is completely wrong for a number of different reasons. I think it certainly clouds the tournament. The talk with the tournament now is going to be, should Djokovic even be there, rather than looking forward to the event and the many amazing matches that we'll get. And also Djokovic, you can't really see him getting anything other than a poor reception due to the uncertainty, the unanswered questions so close at the start of the tournament, which is slightly unfair on his part. So if you do have any of your own opinions on the Djokovic matter, should he be allowed the tournament, should he not? In my opinion, I think, he's applied for medical exemption alongside other players. It's been reviewed blindly by 2 independent Victorian health officials, and they've accepted it. If they'd rejected that, Djokovic wouldn't be at the Australian Open, and that would have been the fact. So yeah, do leave your opinions on what you think about it all in the comment section below. If you have enjoyed the video, please do leave a like, and thanks for watching. I will see you on the next video.